What is going on, you guys? My name is CodyT503 and this is Interesting Podcast. Coming to you guys on March 29th, 2024 for episode 91, where today we have a very special guest. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you guys get notified whenever I upload content. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Let's get right into this. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute pleasure to bring to you guys Josh Kain.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Woo!
Oh man, it is an absolute pleasure for you to actually join me here today. Like it has been quite a few months that we've actually been building to this. So thank you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
so very much for actually joining me.
Yeah, this is cool. This is cool, man.
That is so awesome. So, if we could actually introduce you to maybe any of the new viewers or people who don't know you, maybe you can introduce your name, where you're from, and how long you've been a musician.
Well, what's up, guys? I'm Josh Kain. I'm from Auburn, Washington, and I've been a musician the better half of my life, probably since I was the age of 11 or 12. So that's probably like damn near 20 years now.
That's crazy. So it's like, what was the first instrument that you actually picked up that you actually felt really attached to?
Definitely guitar. I mean, I did start a little bit on piano when I was a kid. I did, kind of noodle around because there's always a piano, like when I was growing up at my mom's house and at my grandma's house. But guitar is definitely like the first instrument that I was like, yeah, I love this for sure.
That is so cool. So, like, can you actually tell us like the specific guitar that you actually had when you actually first picked it up?
Yeah. Actually, I had this little flamenco guitar. It was a nylon guitar. So, but the thing that was funny about it was there were steel strings put on it. Which all my musician friends out there, they know that you should never put steel strings on a nylon guitar because it will be a nightmare to play. The tension is not set up for that. So I played on this like really bad acoustic guitar, but I love it. I still have it. And then I later switched, got my first electric, which was like a broken, um, basically like Strat copy called a Honer, Rockwood. I still have it to this very day. Actually, maybe I'll pull out some of my guitars later, but I have like a ton of them. And actually, that one's out in the hallway. Has stickers all over it and everything. I mean, that was my baby growing up.
That is so awesome. So, like, here's a really interesting question that I wanted to ask you, just because, like, I kind of knew that, like, you played the electric guitar and maybe you explored, like, playing the acoustic. Would you ever kind of like explore playing the mandolin?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I play a little bit of mandolin and ukulele. There's a couple string instruments that I like playing for sure. Mandolin's beautiful.
That is so awesome. So it's like what is your main musical taste as far as like what you want to bring to your performance?
Um, I would say that like it's changed over time. I'm kind of in that era where I'm starting to do kind of like the mainstream hard rock mixed with modern technology, kind of like the electronic stuff. So kind of, you know, anthemic rock that you can sing along to and catchy choruses, but like blistering guitar solos because I love that. I still love that part of music, but definitely kind of leaning towards that like more modern hard rock.
Yeah. Yeah. So like before we actually get into like what mostly drove you, was there like any inspirations that you were like growing up with where it's like I if I was ever in a band, I would love to be able to portray this type of music. Like can you kind of walk us through that a little bit?
Oh, yeah, I think that's some of my like what are my early influences?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
are you asking what my earlier influences would be?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely would say that Van Halen was kind of like the guitar player that got me like really wanting to take it to the next level. Um, As far as like I'd say vocally though, there's definitely a lot of other people have inspired me, like Chris Daughtry. The first time I saw him like on American Idol when I was growing up, I was so enthralled with his voice. He's got an amazing range and tonal quality. So I feel like I try to emulate a lot of what he does vocally, but also I'm a shameless Nickelback fan, so I love Chad Kroeger too, fantastic vocalist. But I also like Corey Taylor of Slipknot, kind of his ability to go from a heavier rock piece to more of a ballad too, because I like to do both, like the high energy rock thing, but I love singing softer music as well. So I'd say that some of my early influences, there's a lot of them, but Van Halen, Nickelback, Chris Daughtry, 3 Days Grace, Slipknot, Avenged Sevenfold, to name a few.
Yeah. So here's a really interesting question that I wanted to ask you, especially when it comes to Corey Taylor, is that he is one of the most well-known people that has the highest octaves, where I think it's like 48 octaves, as far as like him being able to reach. And he has like the world record for it. So it's like, how many octaves do you think that like you could actually get to? Like, do you kind of try
Oh,
and balance that
yeah.
throughout your music?
Yeah. Well, so with the octaves, there's a lot of people. You have people like Axl Rose who have like a 5 octave range. Um, and really, there's your average singer has about a 2, and some have a 3. So to be able to do 4 or 5 is pretty difficult. I would say that comfortably, I can definitely bounce between pretty, within the 4 octave range. I mean, if I'm really like trying to hit that high note, I can definitely do it with a falsetto, maybe at a 5th octave, but it might not be comfortable. I find that I like to kind of stay within, I guess if you were to break it down and singer, I'm like kind of a high tenor, and then I can go down to a baritone really comfortably. In my own music, though, I tend to stay in a comfortable range, but then there's like I leave it so that whatever key I'm singing in, I have room if I want to sing a high note. Like off the last album I recorded, um, I have a song called Manifest, and between that one and then The Great Divide, I do a really, really high tonal scream, which is it's still technically a note. But that one I really get to like utilize my range a little bit more, and I'd say that one I get to go at the higher register for sure.
Yeah, that is so interesting. So it's like, what was your first ever concert that you actually experienced?
Oh, my first ever concert? Oh.
Mhm.
Um, well, I'd say like the first time I ever got to really go experience live music was like at a church concert, like in the park. But one of my yeah, which was fun. Don't get me wrong. I'd say probably one of my like first concert experiences that I really remember well was probably Avenged Sevenfold at White River Amphitheater. That was like insane. I was blown away their ability to be like incredible performers, and their guitar solos. Like that's one thing I really respect about Avenged Sevenfold was not only are they great showmen, but the musicianship of Sinister Gates and Zachy Vengeance, like their harmonies and stuff. I thought that was so cool. So that was probably the first concert that I really kind of stuck with
Yeah.
me.
So like, were you in like the grass area, like, or the seating
Uh,
area, or were you in
I
the pit?
I got to be in the seating area for that first experience, so I was like kind of spoiled in that. I definitely wanted to be in the pit though. I mean, I think since then it's like I've always wanted to be more so in the pit, but I was in a seat for that one.
Yeah. So like, how did it feel, kind of like having that big of a band be sitting there playing, and then you like kind of like look around and you have all of these lights going off? Like, what was running through your mind as you were actually sitting there looking throughout the entire crowd and knowing what you were experiencing?
Yeah, I would say that for me, when at the concert, you experience an incredible energy, but as like a musician, you want nothing more than to be on that stage and be in that position. That's something like when I go to a concert, I sometimes I'll get lost in it, when I'm listening to the artists and their music and what they're doing. And then sometimes I'll like daydream like, okay, I want to be on that stage and I want to be emulating that kind of energy for people. So it'll kind of like give me inspiration to keep, you know, pushing forward because that's something I want to do.
Mhm. Yeah. So to kind of go back to like what we were just previously talking about, what would you say, or who would you say would be your main singer that like you mostly drive the most inspiration from? Can you kind of explain us to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that right off the bat, Chris Daughtry, um, for sure, I think would be if I had to pick one. I think that he's someone I really like to emulate because he's pretty versatile with his playing, and he's still like growing as an artist too, which is interesting. Like he's starting to kind of he's had waves in the industry, but he's one of the best vocalists I've ever heard in the rock industry. He's got an incredible range and power and control. So that's someone that I really like look up to. And his ability to be versatile with his songwriting too.
Yeah, yeah. So like, here's a question. So like, did you kind of like do like choir growing up? And like, when was it where you actually like found your voice? Where like you know that you could actually sing? Like what, like at what point was in your life was it like I can actually do this?
I would say so. I did do choir. I did a church choir when I was when I was going in. And when I started that, I used to do this thing where, you know, whenever I'd walk home from my friend's house, I would like hum tunes in my head and I'd come up with all these melodies. But, you know, I never thought like when I was a kid that it would ever amount to anything. But my dad initially noticed that I had really, really good pitch as a kid. Like I could sing on, you know, in key and everything at a very, very, very young age. But I never took it seriously back then. You know, I would just make a bunch of weird noises. But that's kind of where it started for me. So I did the whole church choir thing, and I kinda came into my own around the age of 14 is when I actually started to really sing, because I was always a lead guitar player for a long time, and at the time, I was in a band, and one of my best friends was the lead singer. He got sick for one of the shows, and so, I mean, I knew all the songs and how to sing them, I just never did, you know, it for the shows, and then I had to take over, and then after that show, you know, I was like, "You know, I can do this. I can sing. I'm gonna try this." And it kinda that's kind of where that started, and then I became a, you know, a front man and a guitar player for pretty much every group I've ever been in.
Yeah. So like what was the actual name of your guys' garage band as you were figuring all of that out?
We got a bunch because he's I mean, I haven't played with those guys since I was, like, 15, but the first band I was ever in was called Fragile Curse, and then that turned into, like, Twisted Truth, Fuel for the Flame, then In All Honesty, Ship Set Sail. I had all these bands I've been in growing up, so there's kind of like this, you know, just development over time, but the first one was called Fragile Curse. That was, like, way back in 8th grade.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, how difficult is it to actually sit there and like write out like a chorus or going into a lead guitar like riff? Like, how difficult is that when you're trying to correspond with exactly what you guys are writing?
Well, for me, I would say that everything would depend on like if you're trying to force a song out or if it's more natural. So for me, when I'm writing a song, uh, it can happen in a multitude of ways. It could start with a melody in my head, and I can kind of have, you know, some lyrics that kind of come from that melody. Writing a guitar solo or any of that stuff, though, for me, it's always been pretty easy to come up with that kind of stuff. Um, you know, songwriting for me, it's more of I try not to force anything. Like once I get like the chord structure that I want, or once I get the melody, honestly, I can build around that. You know, because I know how to play all these instruments. You know, I play guitar, I play piano, I play drums and bass and a few other things. And so the songwriting's the best part for me about music is I love that. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily difficult to write. I'd say it's more difficult to record than anything because getting it to sound the way you want it to sound, that's the tricky part.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, would you ever kind of be able to maybe tell us about what was the song in which you felt most comfortable with? Like that really drove you as a person to be able to portray that in a song.
Like, what song is the most like that I've written, or that like a cover, or what do you mean?
Well, we'll definitely have to get into covers, but just the
But you're talking
song that you
original,
felt, huh?
like a song that I've written that I felt the most comfortable with.
Or just performed with. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
perform. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'd say, and as in recently, the song I'm most comfortable playing live, just because it's so much fun, is "Load Up," because it's such a party anthem. So it's just when I'm singing that song, it's so easy. It's just such a fun time, and it's not necessarily a super hard song to sing either. And people can kind of sing along with it as well. That one I'm incredibly comfortable singing live.
Yeah, that is so interesting. So, one thing I wanted to ask you is, have you ever played the game Rocksmith as a guitarist?
So I haven't really like dabbled too much into it because I
Mhm.
also teach music, but I have seen Rocksmith be kind of a cool tool for practicing. Because from what I'm aware, people can basically plug their real guitar in and kind of learn along with what they're doing. I've never really used it that much because I already kind of have a practice regimen, but I've heard it's useful for people.
Mhm.
I've recommended it to some of my students as like a good practice tool, but I haven't used it too much.
Yeah. So like you just like brought up that like you kind of have these specific practices. So what exact practice do you kind of not only develop within yourself, but that you want to kind of teach your students?
Well, so a big thing for me, as far as like practice rudiments, like on guitar specifically, because that's the primary instrument that I teach. I have like as far as my warm ups go, it's anywhere from working on kind of 4 or 5 different techniques, like within 10 to 15 minutes. So I make my students warm up with their alternate picking, their sweep picking, and then their tapping hammer on and pull offs. I have a couple various exercises that I run them through so that they get comfortable with each of those techniques. Because especially in the modern age guitar, like sweep picking, alternate picking, and tapping is kind of a standard that you need to know now. But there's other various techniques I'll have them run through, like if they're doing more of a classical style of music, or flamenco, or anything that's more finger style. I also have right hand exercises that I have them run through. And then aside from the technique part, I make sure that they memorize all of their chords and their note names so that they have that drilled into their brain so that they're able to, learn other music quickly because they already have a good relationship with their instrument.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's like when did you actually kind of figure out that like, you know what, I want to actually go out and actually be able to teach people this exercise or teach people how to be able to do this? Like when did that whole conversation come up?
I would say, I mean, I started teaching guitar when I was about 18, 19 years old, and I kind of hopped right into that industry. I've been teaching guitar since, that's over almost 14 years teaching it now. And yeah, so it all started around the age of 18 that I started, because in my bands I would teach my other guitar players like how to play these things, and then I'm like, well, maybe I could teach this for other people and make it a little bit lucrative. I can you know take tuition payments and stuff, and then it became like a full-time job, which is kind of cool.
Interesting. Um, so like I don't know, like you had just brought up earlier that like you're a big fan of Slipknot. And
Yeah.
when Jay Weinberg actually came out as the drummer instead of Joey Jordanson, Slipknot said that like they really pushed him to a certain limit. So it's like, do you ever kind of have to like have that certain standard with all of your other bandmates where you're like, we have this specific standard and we're going to push you to be able to actually do that? Do you kind of feel that going throughout your band?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I'm really blessed with is my bandmates are, they're some of my best friends, and they're so talented. There's definitely a standard that, when I put everything together, I kind of laid out. I'm like, everything's got to be, top notch. But all of them are top notch players. So one thing that's been nice is they all push themselves really far to get better. I mean, even my other guitar player Joe, he was like the newest addition to the group, and he's got a lot of talent, and he's picking up techniques that initially he wasn't comfortable doing like in the beginning, but he's like excelling. um he's doing a great, all of them work really hard to sharpen their tools, and they're such talented musicians. I don't really have to do too much, which is great.
That is awesome. So, I actually have one question for you. That is actually coming from my baby mama, and she
Okay.
wanted to know, um, she wanted to know your taste in music, and actually the specific genre, and when did you understand that you wanted to be a part of that genre?
Okay, that genre. So my specific taste in music, so my tastes in music are very, very like open. I've so many different styles of music. So I like to listen to anything from like blues, pop, rock, jazz, classical. But as far as like writing and stuff, and currently, I would say that the kind of the mainstream hard rock thing that I'm kind of going for, I really started to lean on that more, just because as a music listener, the things that I really like about a song are if it can make me feel something, and songs that I really resonated with growing up, like 3 Days Grace, 6 a.m., Nickelback, Stained, Avenged Sevenfold. I mean, there's a lot of things I was like, or Linkin Park too. A lot of these songs from my childhood that I listened to, I'm like, I want to emulate that and be that for someone else. And so when I'm writing music now, and kind of thinking of how can I like jump into this pool of music, I want to write catchy music that people can sing along to, and with great lyrical content as well. Something where people, they feel something when they listen to it. So I would say, like in the last couple years, I really started thinking about that as a musician and as a writer. I'm like, I want to write some of this, kind of mainstream hard rock stuff, sprinkle in everything else I've learned over the years, like how to do crazy guitar solos, and add breakdowns and stuff as well. But I really wanted to focus on the lyrical content and having people remember what those verses are, remember what those choruses are, because a lot of music now that it's starting to come back, but there was a time where you weren't hearing as many like catchy choruses in rock anymore. You were like, it was a lot of breakdowns, which are great. Don't get me wrong, I love a breakdown, but people were like not able to sing along anymore. And that's something like when you're at a big giant show, when you have an entire stadium chanting your choruses or your songs, that's an amazing feeling. So like that's kind of what made me want to jump into that.
Yeah. Yeah, that like for some reason when you were just talking about like those stadiums, something I wanted to ask you was like if you were ever to headline Lollapalooza and you were to have all of these special guests that would kind of open up for you or be the co-headliner for you, who would you want as the opener or co-headliner?
Well, I think right now, uh, bands I would love to play with, or have had a festival like that, and I had any kind of power. I'd say I'd probably do I Prevail, Daughtry, uh, Nickelback, um, Avenged Sevenfold, Falling in Reverse. I'd probably pick a few of those guys, like because a lot of them have some damn catchy music and really, really high stage energy. So it'd probably be those acts right now for sure. Maybe there's this band called Ashes to New or whatever, and they're kind of upcoming. So that's another one too. I'd love to kind of play with if we were to co-headline something.
That is so awesome. So like kind of like going with that, instead of it being a festival, would you kind of like sit there and say, I want these two bands to actually go on tour with me? Would there be kind of like two separate bands that you would kind of want to actually go on tour with?
Oh yeah, I mean, 100%. I want to tour with Nickelback just because their tours are insane, and their stadium shows. I know a lot of people don't like them, but a lot of people do like them. There's this huge stigma around Nickelback that is kind of controversial, and I like that element to it too, because a lot of people who don't like them are mysteriously at their shows. That's one for sure, definitely on there. Another one. I would love to. As far as that, I would fit alongside really well. Would probably be Breaking Benjamin or 3 Days Grace. Those are two bands I would love to play with, and be on tour with too. Because I feel like also they're pretty stable. There's some bands that I'm like, I love that, but I've heard that they're crazy on tour, like like the partying and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I gotta stay focused.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be absolutely amazing if there was a concert where it was Of Mice and Men, Breaking Benjamin, Josh Kane.
Ooh, that would
Oh
be
man,
sick. Oh,
yeah,
I'd do
that
it.
is a who take my money.
Yeah, I'm there. I would love My Cement's amazing too. That's a great lineup. Might have to make that happen. Breaking Benjamin too. Like, whoo. I love both those bands.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Well, one thing I wanted to talk to you about was I saw your video where you did a cover of Simple Man, and you were able to sit there and actually play the piano as you were sitting there singing. So it's like,
Yeah.
how difficult is it to be able to learn a different instrument and then be able to actually sing along to the song that you're actually playing? Like, that's insane.
So what it starts with is any instrument that you're playing, you want um to have it become second nature. So like when you ride a bicycle, you don't think about it anymore, right? To a certain degree, like now that you've kind of done it for so long. Just like we don't think when we're walking, we're just walking. So once you get to the place where your instrument is an extension of you and it's like, riding a bike, you can just kind of zone off. That's when it becomes easy to sing. Like for me, especially piano and guitar, I'm very comfortable with singing and playing those two instruments and playing at the same time while singing. Especially guitar. Piano, I would say that once it becomes second nature, then it's not very difficult. But in the beginning stages, like you're trying to sing and play at the same time, it can be very difficult. But just make sure your instrument is like second nature to you, and singing won't be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So to like kind of like go along with that whole question, is there any one artist that you would really love to actually cover where they were actually there with you as you were sitting there covering their own song?
Oh, ooh, that would be there's a couple. There's a couple. Yeah, I mean, one person in particular, like I said, Chris Daughtry, like any of his songs, if I could like cover that and like just be right there in the room with them singing it, that'd be a dream come true for sure. Um, I think another one, anything by Shinedown as well. Like I love Shinedown and a lot of their, especially like probably like their last record. There's a lot of songs that I really like in there. So that's another artist that I would probably love to be there while I'm covering one of their songs. I'd probably be nervous, but it'd be a blast.
That is awesome. So, there was one song that I wanted to kind of bring up with you where I really wanted to dive into your mind as to why you actually wrote the song. And that is Ashes.
Ah.
And yeah, so it's like before we actually really dive into it, I want to ask you like what mostly drove you to want to write that song?
Oh, that's definitely heartache, pain. That song's probably one of the more sad, darker songs I've written. Definitely went through a rough patch in my life with one of my relationships, and it was at the time of where that relationship was pretty much over, anyways. Um, yeah, I'd say that one, what kind of inspired me to do that was definitely a bad relationship for sure.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I wanted to ask you about your whole song and the way that you said everything is you were saying like, what if I got a 9 to 5 job and
Yeah,
broke apart everything that you used to know? Like, not to get like too personal, but like that like
yeah,
really like hit with me. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
And so it's like, how does it feel to now know that like you can write something like that And there are people that can actually relate to what you're going through. And maybe that song can actually help them actually go through that situation because you're actually expressing it in the way that maybe they are not able to express themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great thing about music is that, at the end of the day, that's like the best part is if you resonate, if it resonates with other people and they can, because sometimes people can't say what they feel, sometimes they go to music to internally heal through that process. And I mean, that line definitely sticks throughout my life because, when you're an artist or anything else, right, in this life, and you're supposed to fit into what society wants, or like sometimes you'll be with someone that's like wants you to, they want to mold you into something. And I've definitely experienced that in my life, especially, with women, over the years dating and stuff. I went through a lot of that where they try to change me. Like they would want me to be like the office guy or doing this. I don't know what society considers stable, but I'd never be happy doing a 9 to 5. I respect people that do the 9 to 5, but I definitely, that wasn't for me. But it was always seeming to come up, in conversation with people I was with that, what if I did cut my hair and, and got a 9 to 5 and just, you know, got rid of those parts of me, and became and settled. I think a lot of us feel that way too every day. I mean, I think that everyone struggles with that, trying to fit into society and being scared to chase their dreams, and just fit into a mold. But, that's, I think we all got to hear that sometimes that, we can be unique and we don't have to fit into what our, maybe whoever we're dating wants us, what they want us to be or what society wants us to be.
Yeah. So, like, would you kind of say like the same exact thing if I were to ask you, like, what advice would you give to somebody who was maybe going through those things? Because, like, I'm gonna be like very very honest with you. Like,
Mhm.
there were certain times where I was up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was just listening to your music, and it hit me very very much. And so it's like what advice would you kind of give those people who are maybe going through depression, but yet they're able to actually go towards your music and be like, this is hitting me so much that now I feel comfortable.
I mean, yeah, I think that, it definitely advice that I would give listeners or anyone. I mean, I mean, it's honor. I mean, I'm honored to have, if my music can help someone get through the day, like that's something I definitely want for, my audience and just people. Like that's how I want to give back for sure, for people to listen to something have healed, because that's, I think all of us come from that, listening to music and having it be something that comforts you. If I were to give advice to people, when it comes to depression and a lot of these things, hold on to the things in life that make you happy. Like, I think sometimes we sacrifice those things to appease other people, or we get lost in, the daily grind. I think a lot of people, more than ever, our generation is so depressed because, we're basically working 40 hours a week with no you time. And, in those moments, like when you're that dark place, try to see whatever it is that keeps you happy in this life, like whether it's a passion, whether it's creating something or doing something that brings value to yourself that's outside of everyone else. Like, hone in on that thing. Like, for me, that's music, and uh that's something that's definitely helped carry me a far away. But that could be something different for someone. It could be someone creating a podcast. It could be someone, drawing. It could be someone, that likes to go hiking or an activity. Hold on to those things, and because we need something that's worth holding on to, to make it through this life. We need something that to kind of be excited for.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually had a so I go to a barber, and she was actually wanting to ask you a question, and that was so like what made you want to be a musician is what she was asking.
Oh, what made me want to be a musician?
Hmm.
Well, I think it started. The second I picked up the guitar, I like knew from that moment. I'm like, this is what I want to do. What do I need to do to get there? And I mean, things that inspired me along the way, obviously other artists like watching them, but I wanted to be a musician after I think being on stage for the first time and just having that feeling. Like there is this adrenaline rush when you're on stage performing for people. And I'm like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to play for people. I want to write. I want to sing songs, and I want to create something for other people to hold on to. So definitely it was probably the first time I picked up a guitar. Honestly, I'm like, this is what I want to do.
That is so awesome. So like you were just kind of like talking about like going and learning all of these new songs or playing the guitar in like a certain way in which you want to actually portray. But like how do you kind of deal with writer's block? You know what I mean? Because
Ah.
like every person kind of goes through that. So like how do you kind of conduct yourself whenever you are actually having writer's block?
Yeah, this is a good. I love that question. Right, so how I deal with writer block is I try not to force any songs out, right? Like that's the thing. I have this thing every year. I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm going to write another song, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a new song is born. I've had songs where I've written them within an hour or 15 minutes, and then I've had songs that have taken a decade to write. Like this last album, I just released a song called "Wake Me Up." Now, the chorus of that song I have had written for over 10 years. I didn't finish the song though until this last year when I went to Nashville. I wrote the verses as the final part and finally finished that song. Um, Generally, with writer's block is I try to emulate the emotions that I'm feeling because I write a lot of the songs that I write are based on experiences in my life or emotions that I've like felt. So I tend to come from that place. Um, if we were just talking about like, oh, can you just go write a song without any of the emotional attachment? Load Up was written by just kind of having an idea. Like I have endless ideas when it comes to riffs and instrumentation, but putting a whole song together, sometimes it's good to get like bounce ideas off other people. Really dealing with what writer's block comes down to sometimes taking a break from it entirely for a little bit, like maybe like a two, like don't try anything, like let your mind kind of relax and then it'll come back. Sometimes if you try too hard, you'll just dig deeper into writer's block.
Yeah. Yeah, so like that was definitely something that I wanted to actually bring up to you was actually the whole loaded up video. And so it's like
Okay.
how was that whole production? How was that whole party? Like can you kind of walk us through that whole night?
Oh yeah, that night was wild. So how that all started is when I got back from Nashville, we're like, we need to film a music video for this song. And I was like, okay. So the first I put my band together when I got back. So I hit Dylan up and I'm like, all right, I need a drummer like for this. And then he's like, yeah, let's do it. And then Araya, his wife, one of my friends, she plays bass and was like, I'll do bass. Then we had another guitar player with us at that time. So we were kind of rolling. So when we got my friend Sam, then Shireen and Ken, they had a log cabin house in Enumclaw, or kind of Auburn area. And they allowed us to throw a massive party on this property. It's a big property, so we fit like a couple hundred people at this party. Um, that video shoot, we really we're like, okay, we're just gonna have a fat party and film it. We'll play, we'll play in the house a couple times, like run through the song. Like we probably did 6 or 7 takes of us playing the song, and then we did a bunch of takes of me singing the song in different areas of the party.
Mhm.
Um, as far as the planning went, a lot the initial was just to like have us playing there and then film people like drinking, but then I like ended up in the hot tub like some of it, and that wasn't planned, but it turned out to be something cool. And then there's a part where I get like arrested. My friend David and this other guy, they portrayed the cops or whatever that arrested me, and that was fun too. That was really fun scene to shoot. But a lot of that video shoot honestly was just one big fat party, and we're like, let's film it.
That is so awesome. So like you just kind of like talked about going and singing in multiple places. So like did you have to kind of like perform the same song like multiple times? And I
Yes,
know
I
go ahead.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I had to sing that song so many times. It was probably like 50 times at least. My voice was gone by the last take. I'm like, I don't have a voice anymore. But it was fun. That was fun. Definitely probably 50 times.
Really?
Yeah, it was a long night.
Um, so
Sure, the people
there
were
were
sick
two
of the
things
song.
that I'm sorry.
No, what you're saying? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, so there were two things that I wanted to bring up to you, and one thing was I know when I was talking with Max Burnside, he had kind of said that like he had to kind of ask somebody to kind of go on like the pillars and sit there and like rock out, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And
You gotta ask the
yeah,
homeowner. Yep.
yeah. And then
Oh
he
my
also
god.
said that Dylan actually wanted to sit there and play the drums as he was sitting on the toilet.
Yeah,
So like,
yep. That was
yeah,
all
so it's like,
Dylan's idea.
how did both of those scenarios come up?
Well, so here's how that happened. This part's funny. Dylan, like that was all his idea to do like the bathroom toilet scene, which is probably one of my favorite things about that music video. It was so much fucking fun. Um, he initially was like, "All right, guys, I don't care what we do for the video, but as long as I get to play on the toilet for one scene, I'll be happy." So he goes up, we go upstairs, and then some people are like, "We want to go rock out in the bathroom with him because it'll look cool." And then Max Burnside comes up and is like, "Okay, I'm gonna like go in there and hang from the ceiling." So then we got permission. And he's he's a wrestler, so he's super agile and does crazy stuff. So he's up there just headbanging his little heart out. And that's kind of how that happened. Like it all started because like, all right, we got to go film in the bathroom, and you know, Max is fun. So he's like, we're gonna do this.
Oh, that is so awesome. So like can you kind of like walk us through exactly when you kind of met Max Burnside and how your guys' friendship kind of really like accumulated?
Yeah, well, so I met Max through my best friend Rachel. And they started dating. This is a while back, and so then I started going to all of his shows and stuff, all his wrestling shows. They're so much fun, and that all of us became really good friends. They've just been. He's awesome. I love that guy. Like every time I love seeing him. Like him and his element, because they'll come to my shows and watch me perform, but then I'll go to to their wrestling shows and just I'll be wearing my Max Burnside like tank top, and I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, drink beer and watch him just do backflips and crazy shit off of everything. I love that. He's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, there was one thing that I actually brought up with Max Burnside that I found really, really interesting because you were just talking about that tank top, and it's actually Max Burnside Pro Wrestler. So, like, could you
Yeah.
actually see Activision making a game? Let's make Max
Oh,
Burnside Pro Wrestler.
they need to add him in. They need to add him in a video game. Like he would just. Yeah, it'd be freaking awesome. Just if you could have a skin of Max Burnside, like in like one of the WWE games, or come out and just face off against The Rock and all these people, that'd be amazing. Find the mod community needs to get on this and create a Max Burnside skin.
Oh, that is awesome. So it's like, so you've actually been a part of like a lot of shows. And there's something that I find really interesting because the only way for you to kind of understand this is actually being on stage. And so and so whenever you're on stage, it's made out of metal beams and plywood. But then you
Yeah,
have all of your instruments and all of your speakers, and it almost sends this vibration going throughout the stage as you're sitting there and playing. So, how does it feel kind of standing on top of that stage, having to perform, and then you also have to kind of like keep your balance as
well,
vibration is going
yeah,
through?
as the vibrations go. Well, I will say that every stage is a little different. I've played on what we call sturdy stages, where they're like very much so the construction on those stages is really good and you don't notice too much of anything. But I've played on a couple stages where I'm like, I don't know if I can jump like off of anything. Like I'm gonna fall through the floor. Which I think venues need to make sure that their stages are as safe as possible. I would say though, like the vibration, like a lot of that comes from the kick drum and the bass player. Like that's where I feel most of that. It's amazing. It's electrifying though, being on stage and just doing that. Your adrenaline's running, everything is incredible. But I definitely think that I'm like, if the stage is not built very well and you're starting to kind of buckle a little bit, that's where I get a little nervous. So I run around. I'm kind of a wild man on stage. I'll run around.
So, like, what was the one time in which you actually stepped out on stage and maybe you didn't expect the amount of audience that you actually got?
Oh, I would say, well, like there's positive, negative to this. So our shows have been pretty packed. Actually, every show like in attendance we've played, there's been a lot of people. One that I was like surprised by, I'd say this last show, I was really surprised of how many people we just pulled, right? Like we played Spanish Ballroom, and we've done it 3 times now as far as over the last 2 years, and every time I've played there, it's gotten bigger. But this last time I played, I was asked to be the headliner, and I'm like, okay, I'll headline it. And when it came, people were starting to kind of trickle in, and as soon as I went backstage, I had to get ready, so I didn't see what it looked like out there yet. They had all the stage production, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be an okay night. It looks like we had a decent amount of people walking in. As soon as I go out there, the whole place is packed, and I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of people here. This is awesome. But I didn't initially, like sometimes if you're not out in the audience, like a lot of local shows, you get to be there the whole time, and you kind of go up when you're ready. But that was one of the first shows where I was like away from the venue away from like seeing people for like 25, 30 minutes getting ready backstage. So then when you come back out and there's a lot of people, it's a nice surprise. And then I've had it at the opposite spectrum where a show that we thought was going to do really well. I won't say the show out of respect for, because some of the artists on it, but there was a show that was promoted kind of in a weird way, and we were asked to play it, which was fine. We'll go and play with our friends. But this show was like, I was actually anticipating that it would be kind of packed, but it like probably 5 people showed up, if I'm being honest, like to that one. And this was like a while ago. It's the only show though in the history of what I've played in the last 2 years that was low attendance. Everything else has been really packed. But that show was like, oh, this is a bummer. But we still, doesn't matter if there's one person or 1,000, we're gonna go crazy in there. We're still gonna perform our little hearts out.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it kind of sad that like there are those like specific bands that like put so much effort in, and to kind of like give you like a little backstory, I had gone to San Francisco and I went and saw Old Salt Union and another band, but
Well, did we cut out? Hello? Uh-oh. Hello? Oh. Whoa, hello? Did it disconnect? Oh no. It's okay. That's all right. You're fine. You're fine. We got a pretty. Does it save at least everything? Got you. Oh no. Do you want to try restarting it and just finish up the last 10 minutes? It says I'm still live. Yeah, maybe recharge it. It says I'm still live. What's up, guys? Yeah, we lost our host. It's okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the screen. I'm looking at the screen right now. Cody says hi, guys. Yeah. Is your computer like, did it just shut off? Is it a laptop? Oh yeah, did it what is it plugged in? That it just didn't go through. Yeah, I mean if you can re-enter the chat, it's still going. I don't know if if that works. But oh well, look at that. You back? Is it working? It looks like it's booting back up.
It's trying to. Give me
There,
one
I can
second.
hear you.
I am so sorry, man.
Oh, it's all good. I can hear you. Can you hear me? It's slowly creeping back up. Oh no. Woo. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. I just have to flip the camera really fast.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'll flip the camera. Say we're good. We still got the same thing. It's like, guys, welcome to commercial. It is commercial break. We are back. That's so funny.
Oh,
Blooper reel, guys. I love it. I love it.
Oh man, that is so awesome. So
Oh, yeah.
you can still.
Oh no. We lost him again.
Dude, I swear.
There you go. You got it?
Yeah, I'm just really sorry because like I cannot actually like view my discussion list
Yeah. Because you
without
can't see it.
using my phone. So
Oh yeah.
I don't. Go ahead.
No. You're fine.
Yeah. I just I don't necessarily know like what to do right now because this is the only way that I can actually talk to you, and I actually have to have my discussion list on my phone. So don't really know where to go from here, and I'm so sorry for that.
No, you're fine. Well, I mean, I have the discussion list.
All right, cool, yo.
I could see the next one. We talked about Max Burnside.
Okay.
Talked about stage stuff. Was there anything else in there specifically you wanted to highlight?
Well, I had actually talked to you about like kind of feeling that bright like vibration, and you were kind of going along with that, where it's like, do you kind of feel that vibration depending on the kind of stage that you're actually a part of?
Definitely. I think it's different with each stage. I think that you know, I'll probably feel a little bit more if the stage isn't as well built or if the bass and subwoofers are huge.
Yeah. So it's like do you think that like it would be insane for you to actually step out onto a stage, whether that be the Roseland Theater or the Moda Center? Like how big of an impact would that put on your musical career if you were able to actually step out onto a stage like that?
That would be huge.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that would be definitely hugely impact. What I'm like, what that would definitely like skyrocket me quite, in a few different ways. I think the bigger stages that you're able to get on, the more people start to be like, oh wow, who's this? And it's hard to get on those big stages, especially like stadium level, because those are ginormous shows and they expect, a huge audience. I have to be an opening tour for sure.
Yeah. So like do you have like the biggest audience that you've actually been able to perform in front of, and can you kind of walk us through that event?
Yeah, I'd say the last show we had was probably one of the bigger shows of what I've done, at least. I mean, I've been a part of other groups. Like when I played with this band called Bioplague, I was the bass player for that. We opened up for quite a few big national bands like Cannibal Corpse and Black Dahlia Murder and Hatebreed and OTEP, and those audience, those shows were really slam packed. But as far as like what I'm doing currently, I think the last show we played at the Spanish Ballroom was probably the biggest show, but it was also cool because it was like all our fans. Like that was the best part. Was it was kind of it was almost proving grounds. People got to show we got to show Tacoma that we have an audience, and that was awesome. Oh, looks, we got someone in the chat. What's up, Linda? How you doing?
That's my mom.
What's up? Hi, Mom. Love that.
That is so awesome. So, where can we actually expect Josh Kain? Or where do you want to be in maybe a few years? How far forward are you actually looking as far as your musical career goes?
I'm definitely looking to start playing theater style venues over the next in the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be opening up for big bands at theater level shows or huge clubs, or even festivals. I'd love to be at a big festival here in the next 2 years. So I'm gonna keep pushing for that, and everything has been on an upward trajectory. Like, we've been growing significantly, especially in these last couple releases. A lot more people are starting to kind of pay attention. And we've had support from the radio like KISW, which has been really cool. This last year, it's been awesome.
Yeah. So if you were to actually be able to host your own festival, what would you kind of name it, and where would you place it? Is there a certain venue that you would actually like to host your own festival at?
Ooh. Well, I'd call it Kain Fest. I use my last name as everything. Kain Fest. It's super funny. That's what I named my podcast, Kain Cast. It's easy to say. I would probably, as far as location wise, I mean, if it was in Washington, I would love White River Amphitheater, I think, or the Gorge, because those are such when I'm thinking festival, I like the idea that people can camp and it's like a weekend experience. So probably White River or the Gorge, one of those two. As far as Washington, I think if I were to hit a different market, there's a lot of in the Midwest right now that's there's a lot of demand for rock music. I think right now Washington's at a weird place where it's bands don't like to play Seattle, big bands don't like to, because there's a lot of the prices for renting venues is insane, and the market's really weird right now. I know that's why you don't see a lot of these huge bands playing in Seattle unless you're Taylor Swift or Metallica. But if you notice, even Falling in Reverse, and they're arguably one of the biggest rock acts right now, they skipped Seattle and went straight to Everett the last time they were here. And I'm like, they did the Tacoma because they opened up for Avenged Sevenfold, but I mean, they bypassed Seattle and just went straight for Everett. So there's something weird. There's a cloud over Seattle right now.
Yeah. So here's a really, really good question for you. So it's when I had actually went and gone and seen Metallica in 2017, a lot of people get mad at me for this because I say that they were one of the worst bands that I had ever seen.
Who, Metallica?
Yeah, because for the first hour 15 minutes, they were just playing their new stuff, which a lot of the audience didn't really get with. So it's have you ever experienced a worst concert where you were I would probably never go back and see that band?
Oh, if I experienced seeing an artist that was I would say that most of my concert experiences have been really good. I haven't really seen a band that I was oh, this is so bad, I could never come back from that. I haven't had that one yet, but I'm sure that it's somewhere in my journey along with music, I'm going to run into that where I'm wow, this show is bad. But so far, I've been pretty lucky. All the concerts I've gone to, I've really enjoyed so far.
That is interesting. So
Yeah.
one thing I was just curious about was because you had kind of brought up about Nickelback earlier, and
Yeah.
I think you would probably understand that like Nickelback and Slipknot have kind of had that hatred towards each other. So like, how do you kind of feel going into that whole situation where you kind of like both bands?
Oh
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
the drama between the frontman Corey Taylor and the Chad Kroger. I mean, for
Yeah.
me, I respect both of them as writers and artists. Like I think they're both incredibly talented. I think that they both could take a lesson and just like, bro, you're grown ass men. You don't got to fight over this. I think I walk into that very neutral because I do love both of them. In
Yeah.
fact, sometimes I'm just like, guys, why are you fighting? Isn't this is the I thought that rappers were supposed to have beef with each other, not the I don't know. For me, I think that they just
Oh,
need to kind of get past that because they both have had a huge impact. I mean, there's comments that Chad Kroger made calling Corey Diet Nickelback, and I'm like, come on, bro, come on, no, like Corey Taylor's had Corey Taylor's had an incredible impact on the industry, but so is Chad Kroger. I think that socially, more people like Corey as like a because he hasn't been in his negative of a limelight as say Chad has been, but they both have brought great music to people. Whether you like there's people that don't like both bands, right? Like on both sides of the spectrum, but that the beautiful thing about music is we're never gonna like everyone, but at least there's options, there's people that love Nickelback, there's people that, don't like them, and vice versa, people that love Slipknot or Stone Sour and people that don't like them. We have options. Music is this, it's like flavors of ice cream and stuff, you don't have to like this one, you have this one right over here. Okay. It's all right, man. So when they're fighting, I'm just kind of like neutral about it. They can fight. I think that they should grow up and not fight though. Come on, guys.
yeah. So it's like, how does it feel to like just like you said, like there's going to be specific fan bases that like this type of music or this artist, but yet you have to kind of like look back and be like, there are people that like my music or my style of music. How does that feel as a performer?
It's something that I think a lot of performers will struggle with is wanting to please everyone. That it's exhausting to want to do that. Like at the end of the day, me personally, I want to create something that like that's like raw, and
Mhm.
that means something to me, and I know that my music isn't going to be for everyone, and I'm okay with that too. I'm kind of at that place where I know someone's going to like my music, and I know that there's going to be people that don't like it, and I'm okay with that because we are all creatures of interest. We find things that we love and find things that maybe they just doesn't resonate with us, and that's okay. I've kind of come to that place where I'm okay with not pleasing everyone as long as I get to create the art that I want to create. I don't have to appease anyone, and if people happen to like my music, I love that. I want that for people.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you kind of deal with that exhaustion? Because I feel like anybody who ever like puts their mind to something, there has to be that one day where you're like, man, like I'm just not feeling it. I'm tired. I just like how do you kind of deal with yourself throughout that day?
Well, when I get those days where we call those burnt out days where you just feel burnt out on everything, I kind of go to a place where one thing that really helps me is and I'm a workaholic, so I'm always working, I'm always trying to do this, create this, but I like today, this morning, I took a bike ride. So I have a motorcycle and I like to go on bike rides and clear my mind because it kind of resets me. So on days like that where I'm burnt out, I try to treat myself to something, maybe lunch, go out, get a taco and just relax. Or even one great thing that you can do that I love doing is sometimes I'll either watch one of my favorite childhood movies or I'll play like one of my favorite video games just for a little bit to decompress, and it kind of resets me. So when I'm exhausted dealing with like, the industry and stuff, I can kind of take a break from that by either a bike ride, a game that I like, or, an old movie.
Yeah. Yeah, here's a interesting question. I just like randomly like just want to understand. Have you ever seen the show Prison Break?
Yes, love that show. Great show.
Yeah. Okay. I was just about to tell you like you should definitely like sit there and watch that show because it's amazing.
It's
It's
a great show.
insane.
I love how he has like the entire prison map like tattooed on his back in secret code. Such a great show. Very, very, very like an amazing show.
Oh, that is awesome. So like before we actually end up like closing everything out, like what can we actually expect from the future of Josh Kain? Like what do you want to accomplish?
Well, I want to definitely start popping up on everyone's algorithms. I want to take over the algorithm a little bit. I want to start getting my music in the ears of more people. And so I'm going to find a way to do that. You'll expect to see new music coming out. I will be going back to Nashville to release more. I have another song coming out actually the end of April. So you guys will get one more before I got to go back to Nashville and record the next set. But yeah, be ready for some new music and new shows and hopefully some tours.
That is so awesome. So maybe if you can kind of remind everybody where exactly they can find you on social media, like how can they find you?
So you can find me on YouTube, just under my name, Josh Kain. You can find me on Facebook. I have a website, joshkainmusic.com. You can go there for pretty much anything that I'm posting. Catch me on YouTube, though, is probably the easiest place because everyone uses YouTube. But I'm on Spotify, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Just type my name in.
That is so awesome. Well, I just want to thank you literally so very much for actually joining me here tonight. Like it has been an absolute pleasure to be able to just sit down and just pick apart your mind for a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been awesome.
All right, man. Well, I hope you have a very, very good night, and I cannot wait to catch you later.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful evening. Peace out, guys.
Bye. Well, all right, you guys. So that was Interesting's podcast interview with Josh Kain. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you guys get notified whenever I upload content. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'll catch you guys later.